Hey everyone, it's Yggdrasiel and welcome back to another Xenoblade Chronicles 3 video. A short one for you today, which is why I'm skipping all my usual hodgepodge that I say at the start of my videos. We're just going to get right into things. But of course, I really quickly want to point out that this video, as the name implies, will be discussing two more potential leaks with regards to Xenoblade Chronicles 3's Wave 4 DLC. To that end, if you don't want to be spoiled on any of the information yourself, please exit out of this video. If you are, however, interested, welcome. And if you wanted more information on what else was already leaked, please consider checking out my main video discussing everything, which I'll be linking in the top right corner of the screen and in the description down below. Now with all that said, let's get stuck in. We'll first discuss the shorter of the two leaks that have come to my attention. Now this one was found some time back, but I couldn't quite fit it into the last video in time, and there are two main points that this leak reveals. This leak also comes from the Xenoblade Reddit Discord's data mining group, which is the same group that had found the previous leaks, so there is some strong foundation for it already. So then, the first thing that this leak suggests. Now during chain attacks in the base game of Xenoblade Chronicles 3, there is a TP bonus table that works behind the scenes, and these bonuses are attached to character ID parameters. Since 1.3.0's release, and on top of Masha's parameters, there are two new unlisted parameters, suggesting that the Wave 4 DLC will not only give us the new story that we all have our eyes on, but will also give us two new hero characters in the base game of Xenoblade Chronicles 3. This is huge if true. I mean, it shows that there will be a measure of support for the base game, and that there will be a nice little extra slice of content. In fact, if I were to take in a deep breath of opium, I'd suspect that these two characters could even be future Shulk and future Rex, and they may be pseudo-canonical DLC characters like how Xenoblade 2's Land of Challenge handled certain characters. The only information that slightly goes against this is that we know that the game files already suggested three other heroes, and they are already established characters within the base game of 3. For those who don't know, Mwamba, Nimue, and Yorin were found to be in the files months and months ago in parts and places that suggested that they would join us. Many people even speculated that we'd be getting them as free heroes over the course of the game, similar to the additional story blades that were handed out in Xenoblade Chronicles 2. While that of course hasn't unfortunately happened, I have to wonder by this point if that was ever an intention at all with these characters. Assuming that the two ID parameters and the three characters that we know of aren't the same, or maybe those two parameters or at least suggest Mwamba and Nimue if I had to take a stab at things, I can at least say that there is potential for there to be anywhere from 2 to 5 potential heroes waiting to join us on our trek through Ionios. Not that we will happen to get 5 new characters, just that there is significant potential for at least 2 of them. With all that said, I did mention this leak has two main points, so here's the second one right here. These other unnamed parameters simply imply that chain attacks will be a returning feature in the Wave 4 DLC story. It's nothing too crazy or apocal, I know, but I just feel that it's a notable confirmation nonetheless that chain attacks will seem to work in a similar way, considering that they are acting on the same TP bonus table as the base game. Alright, now on to the bigger of the two leaks, and one that suggests several returning major features that were present in the prior Xenoblade games, including Xenoblade Chronicles X. This is a table that I've yet to find a credible source for, however I will say that members of the Xenoblade Reddit Discord have also seen it, and they also seemingly vouch for it potentially being credible as well. The original source of this seems to be from GitHub, and what we actually have here is an achievement table, a feature present in both Xenoblade Chronicles 1 and Xenoblade X. While some achievements were often rather tedious or difficult to obtain, my MMO hot-wired brain personally loves completing these, and I was sorely disappointed when they didn't return in either 2 or 3. But it looks like that's not the case for the Wave 4 DLC story, assuming that this is true. We have 18 labels so far, all in the same style, which I assume is simply the same format or template, as well as their associated names. I sincerely doubt that this is the full list of achievements, denoted by the fact we don't even have an achievement for Chapter 1, but hey, let's look at what we can work with from here. So, at a basic glance, we can tell that there are a minimum 4 chapters, and while that doesn't sound like all too much, I implore you to remember the average chapter length smack in the middle of Xenoblade 3's base game. Even if just 4 of those chapters were roughly the same length as the base game's chapters, well, that would be quite a hefty journey to go on by modern Xenoblade standards. And as I stated in my previous video, I wouldn't be surprised if the average playthrough of the DLC story landed around 35 to 45 hours. Let's continue. IDs 4 to 13 are all about community, and yes, I know I can feel some of your eyes rolling behind the screen, but community may indeed be a returning feature. For those unaware or who didn't play Torn of the Golden Country, community was a major feature central to the pacing of that game's story. It quite literally at times would prevent you from progressing the main story unless you had enough NPCs properly marked off in the community tab, which you would do so by completing their respective side quests. While some saw community as gameplay padding, I will say that from a narrative perspective, I quite like the concept of community because it pushed the player to interact with NPCs and smaller stories as the tragedy of Torna unknowingly loomed off in the distance. If anything, community served to enhance the player's first playthrough of Torna, and if that is their goal with the Wave 4 DLC story, I'm by all means for it so long as, say, they don't make it a requirement in successive playthroughs as they did with Torna. ID 14 is acquire all recipes, and here is yet another prominent feature that will be returning. And yes, I know that we technically have recipes for Manana's cooking in the base story of Xenoblade 3, but I earnestly believe, based off of everything else this is showing us, we'll be getting recipes back in the same format that Torna also presented. That is, as rewards for quests, reaching new segments in the story, or finding new recipes as we explore the world at large. Each of the founders could then get in on a specific type of crafted item, or it, hey, may just be Manana's cooking after all around the campsites that we've already talked about in my previous video, with just maybe an extra twist here or there. We'll just have to see. Meanwhile, ID 15 is one that could be intriguing. Fully upgrade the X-Reader. Now this could be a few different things. The X-Reader could be the official name of the community tab. It could be a resource gathering feature like the probes of Xenoblade X, or it could be a tracker to find survivors of the original city after it was destroyed by Mobius, because that just happens to be the last bit of information covered by this potential leak. With achievements for discovering city survivors in small, specific numbers, it seems like our main party will also be on the lookout for survivors and try to help them whenever possible. And if I were to go back on the hopium one more time, and I mean a really big strong huff of hopium, I personally suspect that these last 3 listed achievements hint at yet another returning feature, and that is the colony restoration effort from Xenoblade Chronicles 1. Whereas we handed materials to Juju and invited people to start a new life in the gargantuan side effort that was rebuilding Colony 6, this could very well indicate that our party, the founders, could begin to lay the foundation of the new city as the DLC story progresses, and there will be a moderate amount of side content that could go on from here. From discovering and relocating the displaced members of the city, turning in items to build new assets, gaining access to shops which could then have new recipes, and of course, new side quests that will in turn increase our community score. In essence, if they were to go along with this route, the city restoration effort works in tandem with the other gameplay aspects presented in this leak. But that's just my own opinion and hope off of this leak, assuming that this one is at least as credible as the others. If anything else, they are at least fun to speculate off of, but with all of that said, this is where we are going to be ending things for this video. Thank you all very much for taking the time to watch and hear me out, and please let me know what you think in the comments down below. Just be obviously a little respectful with regards to potential spoilers. And if you enjoyed what I had to say, please consider liking the video and subscribing to my channel where I plan to keep providing Xenoblade Chronicles news and content. Again, thank you all very much for watching, and as always, have a great day.